material, this book is a Hebrew document. And unless we know Hebrew or the context and the time that was written and the culture of the people that wrote it, we really can't understand it. But it's not impossible for people to understand this book, because there are ways for us to find out some of this stuff. So why don't you talk us through what it takes to do biblical research or research into the biblical text?
Well, actually, Stewart, it doesn't take near as much today as it did, say, 40, 50 years ago, because today we've got all kinds of lexical aids that can take us back to the Hebrew. Now, we want to emphasize, once again, something that's very difficult for most people to actually come to grips with. And that is that this document that we call the Bible is a Hebrew text, a Hebrew document, both in what we call the Old Testament, erroneously, and the New Testament as well. Here's mine, which is in Hebrew, and unless you know how to get back to the Hebrew, and a Hebrew text, you're liable to come up very short when it comes to understanding the biblical text. But today, there is a way for the average person to do that. You may not know any Hebrew at all and not interested in learning Hebrew, and I can tell you that it's a chore, takes a long time. You have to be devoted to the text and to the language and to try to get back and to understand this very strange document written in a strange language. But if it's the most important thing in your life, then you ought to be willing to make whatever sacrifice is necessary to assist you in getting back to the original text. Now, here's the deal. You need, first of all, this document here. This is the Interlinear Bible. It was published by Hendrickson in Hebrew, Greek, and English. So the Old Testament, as we call it, is in Hebrew. The New Testament is in Greek, and all the way through it's in English. But the one thing that makes this text invaluable is that every single word, even the particles, whatever, are numerically indexed. And so all you need to do is to be able to read and look at the number, and then once you know the number, you can go to this document here. This is Strong's Interlinear Concordance. And it has Hebrew, Chaldee, Greek dictionaries, all referenced. And this book is numerically indexed to this book. So you can look at the number here, and you can turn here in Strong's Concordance, and it will take you to the same number, and then you can look and see what these words mean. And there are several other lexical aids that you can also use that are all numerically indexed. Today, the one thing you need to understand is that all of this material is numerically indexed. To Strong's Concordance, to Brown Driver Briggs, to Thayer's Greek English lexicon, to the Interlinear Bible. And I mentioned to you Brown Driver Briggs. This is a Hebrew lexicon. Now this document here is probably one of the most authoritative and one of the most useful documents that you can have in your library that would allow you to get back to the Hebrew text. And every single Hebrew word that you find in the biblical text is numerically indexed here to Thayer's, or excuse me, not Thayer's, but to Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew lexicon. So you want to remember that name, Brown Driver Briggs. Three gentlemen that put this together quite a number of years ago, and it's still the most authoritative text that allows you to get back to the meaning of the Hebrew words. Now for Greek, there's another similar book, and it's called Thayer's, Thayers, Thayer's Greek English Lexicon, and it allows you to get back to the Greek words. So that it takes very few books, very little expenditure or outlay of funds to get a sufficient number of books to allow you to get back to the original Hebrew text.
So, Dr. Blizzard, one of the listeners is reading from Genesis chapter 1. And they read, in the beginning. And now they want to find out what in the beginning means. If they know Hebrew, they may be able to identify the word Breshit. But if not, how would they go about finding out that meaning?
Well,
take us through the steps.
Unfortunately, it's going to be very difficult for you using these books that I just mentioned to get back to the meaning of a lot of these words without having other documents at your disposal. Now there's another document that I find to be invaluable that I have in my library that's called Onkelos, O-N-K-E-L-O-S, Onkelos, on the Torah. And it's 5 volumes that cover the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, that was written by 2 rabbis, Rabbi Israel Drazen and Rabbi Wagner. And this document is in Hebrew and in Aramaic, and it goes from the Hebrew to the Aramaic, and then they have an English translation of the Aramaic that gives the meaning of some of these phrases that have been mistranslated, if you will, into English. And one passage that you mentioned is one of the most common, and it says, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz. And it's translated into English as in the beginning, but that's incorrect.
So how would I find that particular word?
How would you find that particular word? You could find it by looking what the number is and going to Brown Driver Briggs, and it should tell you.
Okay.
Exactly. Let's just real quickly
Do the Genesis.
follow the whole process through and just see what it says. Here it is right here.
So we have 7225, right?
7225. Look up 7225.
All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the back of Strauss, because in the back we have recorded all of the numbers from 1 all the way through in numerical order. So I'll page through until I get to 7225.
While you're looking it up there, I'll be looking it up in Thayer's.
So here I am in the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, and I'm looking up 7225. So 7225, here we are. And here's what it says.
And here I am, over here, 7225.
Okay,
Round Rubber Bridge. See how it.
right.
Yeah.
So in the concordance we have an explanation. 7225 says, a sheep from the same as, and it gives another number, 7218, so it refers us to somewhere else. And it says, in place, time, order, or rank, beginning, or first, or principal thing. So now, if we wanted to take it a step further, we would find 7225 in brown bottle bricks. And you want to read what it says?
Here it says the same, beginning or chief, and that's about as far as it's going to take us, beginning. The unfortunate thing is that when you look at this passage and you have it translated into English as in the beginning, it's only in English that appears. If you will go to Onkelos, as I mentioned, and most any of the Hebrew commentaries, you'll find that it says something different than in the beginning, because in the beginning would have to be ba Reshit instead of but Reshit, and it doesn't have the definite article to it. So how would you translate it? Well, you keep looking and look long enough in some of the Jewish sources, and you find that the best translation is just at first, and that is what they have in Onkelos. But here's the point. You don't have to go to that length to begin to understand the biblical text. So I wouldn't recommend that the average person even give consideration to the fact that you have a definite as opposed to indefinite with the beginning here in Genesis chapter 1.
So we can get a general idea by going to the Strong's number and looking it up in Strong's, or taking it from there and looking it up in Brown Driver Briggs in a English Hebrew lexicon, and we can get a little bit of information on what it means. But if we want to go deeper, we have to take that word and do a little more research. Right, so now we have the reference 6666. So I've taken Brown Driver Briggs Hebrew English lexicon, and at the back we have a list numerically indexed as well, with page numbers opposite the number. So we go all the way to almost the end of the list to 6666. Six, 6666, and opposite that we have page 842A, and the A and the B just give you the position of that word when we go there. So to page 842. So now I go back in Brown Driver Briggs to page 842. And I'm going to A, so it's going to be the first entry on the page. And there it says 6666, righteousness. Now, do you want to just tell us what all that means?
Well, it means quite a number of things depending upon how it is used in the text. But it tells you what texts are used in the biblical text and how that is to be understood in the text itself. So you look, and the point is that everything, all of the different entries in the biblical text are found here in Brown Driver Briggs.
So we have the word righteousness, we have the scripture where it is used, and we have a meaning. So if, for example, this one says Genesis 15, and we go down and it says righteousness in government of a judge, a ruler, a king, executed justice and righteousness. So we have an explanation of the word right here in Brown Driver Briggs. I don't know Aleph from Tav in Hebrew, but I can still go to the Hebrew word for righteousness, tzedakah, and I can find the meaning of that word.
And the point is that you really don't need to know how to read Hebrew. You don't need to know the Hebrew, because it will take you to the number where it's listed in Brown Driver Briggs and give you the meaning for that particular Hebrew word.
Right, so if I can count,
If you
I
can
can
count,
find the- I
if
can
you,
find the
if
meaning.
you know how to count and use numbers, then you can get back to the entry in the Hebrew text, or if someone is interested in Greek and Greek words, they can also go to Greek text with the Thayers,
right,
that Greek English section.
and it works exactly the same way numerically. So it's really interesting. We can go straight to the original words and find out what they mean. Now remember, if you're enjoying this broadcast, to hit the share button so that you can share this with others, and they can also get this knowledge of how to find out what is in the Bible and what is in the original text without having to speak the language. But I guess it suffices for us who are beginning, for anyone wanting just to know what it means, using Strong's numbers, using the numerically indexed script like the Interlinear Bible, we can begin our study of the biblical text without even knowing one word of Hebrew.
That's correct. And not only that, but you'll find something else. That once you get into this kind of study, and looking at the words, looking at the lexicon and the dictionaries, you're going to find that it engenders an excitement for you to get in and start looking and studying and
just finding out what the text says.
what the text says is an exciting adventure.
Well, thank you, Dr. Blizzard. Remember, if you're enjoying this broadcast, to hit the share button so that others that you know can enjoy some of this material as well. Thank you for watching.